You show me a successful salesperson, and I will show you a salesperson that has committed themselves and has mastered the art of prospecting. Prospecting is essential for salespeople to build a healthy and steady pipeline of sales prospects. However, cold calling is not for the faint of heart, as it is filled with rejection. Today on the Champion Forum podcast, I will be giving you a proven strategy to help you land more sales meetings.
This is the Champion Forum podcast with Jeff Hancher, the forum for leaders, champions, and dreamers.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. As I mentioned in a recent episode, I'm coming off of the high of the JHE Sales Academy. We had nearly 30 people that came from all over the place to get better at not only filling their sales pipelines, but also closing more sales. And, last week's episode, I talked about the importance of setting the agenda. And this week, I want to talk about this prospecting piece. And I'm not going to go into the whole song and dance about, the interest-creating statement and creative prospecting. We covered that a couple of months ago. I'm going to fine-tune one area that in our last Sales Academy, the entire class was just blown away by this one statement. And I'm going to share this one statement with you, and I guarantee you this one statement will turn a cold call objection into a sales meeting. In this 2-day Sales Academy that I do, I spend an entire half day of the 2 days teaching sales professionals the art of prospecting. I believe this is one of the most critical things a salesperson can do, because prospecting is the bloodline to creating a healthy sales funnel. We don't want this roller coaster ride of good months, bad months, good months, bad months. Studies show that it takes multiple attempts to reach a potential customer on the phone, with an average of 8 calls that it typically is needed to connect with a prospect. That's just to get them on the phone, by the way. And despite this, the time commitment that it takes to get all of this done, the value of prospecting is still very clear. Stats tell us that 69% of buyers accepted cold calls from new providers in the last 12 months, and 78% of decision makers have agreed to a meeting or an event of some type following a cold call. These are amazing statistics. So although this prospecting is filled with rejection, it might take you 8 calls to get them to pick up the phone, the percentages continue to tell us that this is a lucrative way to go about filling your sales pipeline. Around 80 to 90% of cold call prospects give some form of initial objection. Imagine that stat. Man, Jeff, that's very motivational. 80 to 90% of the outbound calls that I make, I'm going to get objections. Yeah, it would stand to reason that we might want to get really good at handling objections, right? And what are these objections? They're resistance to scheduling a meeting or responding a follow-up call or time or whatever it might be. This high rate, 80 to 90%, reflects the challenge of cold calling, doesn't it? And you're like, Jeff, you're telling me I'm out here in the trenches. I know. And you get it. It's hard. If you're listening and you're in sales, or maybe you're an entrepreneur and you're not sales by career, but you need top-line sales to run your company and to grow a healthy company, this highlights the importance of objection handling skills, doesn't it? Because what we need to do is move that conversation forward into a sales meeting. So today we're diving into one of my favorite tactics for overcoming objections in these sales prospecting calls. And it's one key thing, one key statement. When you make that outbound call and you deliver that interest-creating statement and they object, the very next thing out of your mouth is this: that's exactly why we need to meet. That's exactly why we need to meet. This phrase is so powerful because it turns a potential rejection into an opportunity to further the discussion. We role play this strategy at length in the Sales Academy, and it's one of the most talked about strategies among our attendees. Why? It's not widely taught. Now look, it's not a new strategy. This is a strategy that many of the greats like Alan Weiss, Mike Weinberg, Brian Tracy, they've been teaching this strategy for years. The corporation that I used to work at teaches the same philosophy. It's not new. A lot of the sales gurus that are out there, they've been teaching it. Yet I find that most salespeople have never been introduced to it. Maybe you're never going to get to a JHE Sales Academy, so I at least wanted to give you this nugget to help you close more sales meetings. But I first want to break this down into why is this so effective, because I need you to believe in it. You know, objections, they often arise from one of three things, really. Time or availability constraints. You know, nobody has time to meet a salesperson, right? The prospect feels like they don't have time for a meeting. And they're probably right. They have a million other things going on. They have more to do than they have time. So it's either a time constraint or it's the second one, which is they doubt the value of it. They're not convinced that a meeting is going to provide enough value. Matter of fact, if they were looking for your product or service, they would have Googled it, picked the phone up, and made an outbound call to said industry vendor if they thought they had a problem. They didn't think they had a problem. You called them. So they're doubting value, or it's the third reason, which is they're just comfortable with the status quo. They're unsure if change is necessary. I think our current product or service is fine. They just don't want the hassle of change. It's usually one of those three things. When you respond to an objection by saying, that's exactly why we need to meet, you're achieving a few things all in one fell swoop. One, you're affirming them. Instead of pushing back, you're showing empathy by acknowledging their concern. The second thing you're doing is you're reframing the objection. So you turn the reason for their hesitation into a very reason a meeting is beneficial. And then the third thing is you're building curiosity. This response hints that the meeting holds value that they haven't considered. Think about this. Hey, you know what? Thanks for calling, Jeff, but I really don't have time to meet. You know what, Brad? That's exactly why we need to meet. What? They didn't teach me this in gatekeeper training. That usually gets salespeople off the phone. It's almost this thing in their mind that they're like, wait, what? I just gave you an objection and you said that's exactly why we need to meet? What we're doing is we're reframing it. We're doing it in an empathetic way. And we're building curiosity because they're like, what do you mean that's why we need to meet? I said I was too busy. By using this phrase, you're subtly shifting the conversation from why a meeting isn't feasible to why it's essential, leaving the door open for them to reconsider. Now, I don't have a silver bullet. I'm not here to tell you that this is going to work all the time. But what I will tell you, in the hundreds, thousands of sales reps that I've trained, I will tell you that the sales reps that aren't doing this are at a significant disadvantage to filling their pipeline. So let's think about these. These are real life scenarios. Let's role play right through them. Here's a few scenarios that I think highlight this, and these are common objections that you're probably getting. Scenario one, let's talk about the I'm too busy objection. Have you ever gotten this one? You sure have. Imagine you're calling a prospect, you deliver your interest-creating statement, and they say, thanks for calling, but we're just too busy now. And that's when you say, you know what, Brad? That's exactly why we need to meet. I understand exactly how you feel about not wasting time. As a matter of fact, many of the businesses I've helped, they felt the same way initially. What they found after investing time learning about our programs here at JHE was that I was able to enhance the influence of their leaders, allowing them to reduce turnover and help their people reach their fullest potential. So would Friday at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock work better for you? Now think about this. You know what, Jeff? I'm just too busy to meet. That's exactly why we need to meet, Brad. And we go right into this with empathy and recovering the meeting. In this scenario, you're acknowledging their workload, right? but framing it in a different way to potentially let them know how we could help them lighten the load, making it easier for them to justify finding a few minutes in their schedule. By the way, doesn't it stand to reason that nobody wants to spend time, but everybody is willing to invest time into what they value, into what's most important? Don't be like all the other sales reps that just, create a defensive posture, argue, not intentionally, but create this wall between you and the prospect. That's not helping anybody. A lot of salespeople do this, and they might win the battle, but they end up losing the war. When we go down the road of that's exactly why we need to meet, we start to reframe their thinking. The other one that I think is popular as well is the we're not looking to change. Or, you may hear it this way: we're happy with our current program. We're not looking to change that service right now. However they might go about saying it. So let's say you're calling a prospect, you deliver your interest creating statement, and they say, we're not looking to change right now. That's when you say, Brad, that's exactly why we need to meet. I understand how you feel about the challenge of switching vendors. As a matter of fact, recently, Joe from Acme Company, in your same industry, he felt the same way when I called him initially. What Joe found after investing a little time learning about our leadership development programs was that I was able to make enhancements to their current leadership development that gave their leaders the confidence to lead, but more than that, create stronger employee engagement while reducing turnover. Sometimes small improvements can make a big impact, Brad, even when everything is going well. So what do you say? Let's connect so you're at least aware of what's possible when the time's right for you. Would Friday at 1 o'clock or 3 o'clock work better for you? Now I'm going right back into it because I'm not asking for you to change. I'm just asking you to listen to an alternative. That's it. Matter of fact, if you're happy with your current vendor, there's no pressure to change. But wouldn't it be worth benchmarking? This is the tone that we're taking with this. Short of them saying, my mom died and I got to leave the office right away to get to the hospital, that would not be a good time to say that's exactly why we need to meet. But other than that, I would tell you there's rarely going to be an objection that you should not follow with, that's exactly why we need to meet. In this strategy, what this is called it's called a ledge. The ledge prepares you to respond because we reframe it and we get them thinking a little bit different. We're happy with our current vendor. That's exactly why we need to meet. I don't have time to meet with you right now. That's exactly why we need to meet. We still have 2 years left on our contract with our current vendor. That's exactly why we need to meet. It doesn't matter what they say. We follow it up with that ledge. That's exactly why we need to meet. Think about this. In this instance, in that role play that I just did, you're positioning the meeting as a chance to explore options and to inform them, not necessarily a push for immediate change. This can make the prospect feel more open to the conversation. I'm not here to sell you something. I'm here to educate you. So there you have it. Respond to the objections with that's exactly why we need to meet. This can turn the tables on a tough prospect and open the door to a meaningful sales discussion. This tactic is very versatile, works for various objections, and keeps the focus and the benefits for the prospect. Practice these scenarios. Refine your approach. And remember, your confidence in the sales meeting will bring tremendous value. And this confidence plays a huge role in how the prospect responds. Appreciate you all tuning in today. I hope this episode leaves you feeling ready and more confident to overcome those tough objections. Until next time, keep turning that prospecting pressure into potential.
The Champion Forum Podcast with Jeff Hancher. Lead, inspire, win.